on, everybody? Isaac here with Civil Engineering Academy. Excited to be with you again with another fun podcast episode. Today, I bring a guest. Occasionally, we do this. We bring on guests that have been members of our course for the PE exam and talk about their experience, because I like to bring on recent test takers that have passed and just share their wisdom with people. And today, I bring on James Johnson. And he has been a repeat taker. It took him 6 times to pass this exam. Life moves quickly. He's married. He's been married for 10 years, has 4 children, and was able to finally pass this exam. And so I wanted to bring him on and share his experience with everybody, because I know many out there are in the same boat, same situation. And he shares a ton of tips about the mental attitude and the resources he used in order to ace this thing. So, but a little bit about James is that he is licensed now in the state of Indiana. He graduated in Illinois with a bachelor's degree from Southern Illinois University back in 2010, and has been married for a good 10 years, has 4 children, and really has been employed with the Indiana Department of Transportation for those 10 years, actually over 10 years, in the construction arena in their transportation group. And so he is working a full-time job, has been able to sit down and study this. He's also a licensed firefighter as well. So he does a lot of stuff. He's a busy guy. I got him on the show because I wanted him to share his experience with us as a repeat taker and share all those details with us. So without further ado, we'll get to James's experience of passing the PE exam. I think all of this is good stuff, and you're not going to want to miss it. You'll have to pardon me for the connection issues we had. I had a little bit of an internet issue going on. And also, James got a cramp in his leg during the middle of the episode. So kind of funny, but stuff happens, and that's life. So anyway, good times, and you're going to really enjoy this episode. It's coming right up. All right. Hey, we've got James with us today. How's it going, James?
Going. It's glad to be here.
I'm glad you're here too. We're here together, man. We're going to make it through. Hey, I'm excited that you're here. As a recent test taker of the PE exam, I wanted to bring you on and talk about your experience. But before we jump into that, why don't you tell us a little bit about how you got into civil engineering, maybe why this was the field you wanted to get into, and maybe your story there.
In high school, I was taking a drafting class. I thought I wanted to be an architect. So I'm like, okay, this is great. I don't mind drawing building stuff, but I hated curves. Just absolutely hated them. Like, why do they want it? I make everything square and triangles. So I was talking to my dad and grandpa about it. And my grandfather was like, well, why don't you go into civil engineering? I said, what the heck's a civil engineer? He's like, well, it's what I did for 30 years. I didn't know what he did. So then he got talking about it. He's like, well, you get to draw straight lines. You don't have to worry about curves. I'm like, perfect. Just absolutely perfect. So that's how I ended up going into the field. I've always been strong in mathematics, but terrible speller. But so I just stuck to my strengths, and here I am.
That's awesome. And so where do you work now? What did you end up going into?
I graduated in December 2010. So the job market wasn't exactly the best when I came out. Fortunately, the state of Indiana was starting to build Interstate 69. It was a brand new virgin road. Nothing had been built in this area yet. So they started an interstate project. And I fortunately was hired in March of 2011. I've been with Indiana DOT since.
Okay. And you work on the construction side, if I remember right. And so
yes.
Are you enjoying that?
I do enjoy my job. I've been very fortunate in my time at INDOT. I've been able to do a lot of jobs. I've not been pigeonholed in just, you're always on the roads doing repave jobs. I've been able to do some, this time around, I've been able to do some bridges. I got to work with galvanized steel beams. It's the first job in the state of Indiana to use galvanized steel beams. So that was kind of it was a neat little change of pace. I've been fortunate to be able to work on some projects that were very unique and their first in Indiana. So I've been very blessed in that sense.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah. And I think working out in the field is a fun place to be when you're working with crew members, and you're kind of getting your hands dirty and seeing on how these projects actually come together and dealing with the issues with that. So I think it's a good spot. But anyway, let's talk about your PE and how that went. So tell us about your exam experience with the PE, and I guess the road to get where you're at?
I was a repeat test taker. I failed it 5 previous times. So on my 6th time, I did pass it. So for the folks out there that are like, man, I keep your way through it, keep persevering, you will get past. The first couple times I took it, I didn't study. I never knew how to study. I was one of those students in college that I just picked up the test, just took it, and I could get A's and B's on it without any work.
Wow.
So I had to kind of change that mindset and work through it. I stopped kind of worrying about the PE after about 4 years. I'm like, why am I worried about this? I don't really need it for my position. It doesn't really change anything except a little more money. So I kind of just put it on the back burner. My wife and I started having kids. So we're starting this family. And in the last year or so, I started trying to like, well, I kind of want to move up and be promoted. Well, it's like, you can't get promoted without that license.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm like, well, okay. So I've got this glass ceiling threshold that if I want to improve, I'm going to have to. And I kind of got turned down for a couple of promotions. Like, it's because you don't have your license. That was an automatic. Sorry. So I'm like, okay. So I went back, started studying last spring. I did not sign up for the COVID exam, so I wasn't one of those people that got canceled in the spring. My father ended up passing from cancer about 2 months before the fall exam, so I was kind of dealing with that. Took the 5th time. You could have named a lot of things went wrong for me. Going up there, had a window stuck down, so it rained all day the Friday of the exam, so my car was wet. Had a trash bag over, so I was already kind of just not in the right mindset. And my wife and I talked about, we're like, so she's like, what do you think you need to do differently? Because I got my results and I got a 50 out of 80, it was good, but wasn't enough to pass. I knew I was close on some things, but I just wasn't quite close enough. So I'm like, all right, so what do I need to do differently? And she's like, look, we have to have you pass this exam. There's no other way around this. This has been a burden on you for so long. It's wearing on both of us. So I said, okay. So I sat down and I tried doing kind of a study plan. I'll work these problems every week, a couple weeks, work just certain sets of problems and move on. In the fall, I thought, man, that just didn't work for me. I forgot some of the things I did early on. So what I did this time was I just started doing a myriad of questions. I just started taking exam after exam after exam and just did it that way. And for whatever reason, it clicked. I got into the exam this time around, and there was in the morning session, and it was geared more towards construction. I felt like it felt like the questions were leaning towards what I knew. And there was a particular question on there that I'd seen on previous exams that, man, I just couldn't figure out how to do it. And last fall it was on there, and I'm like, I've got to figure out how to do this problem. I've seen it too many times to be missing this problem. If it keeps showing up, I've got to pass it. So I found a video on YouTube how to do it. And it's like, well, this is simple. I got to that question on the exam, and I'm like, and it was just like I know how to do this. And it was just like my mindset. It was just like a switch flipped. And I just was able to work right through the exam. And I feel like I got probably a 35 or 38 in the morning. And in the afternoon, I probably got a 30 or 32 in the afternoon. So I knew when I got done, I knew I'd passed. Like, it was no question. As soon as I got done, I'm like, I've passed this exam. I finally have done this. But, until you get the results, you don't know that. But that's what my gut was telling me. I know walking out of there's people like, how do you think you did? I think I passed. They're like, really? I thought the exam was really hard. I'm like, it was hard, but I said it was geared towards me. And it was one of those things. I just had to wait for these results. And then I got very excited. I scared my coworkers when I cheered and jumped up and down passing. I looked like a lunatic, but it's okay. I was pretty happy.
Hey, that's okay. You could do that when you're passing these exams. I mean, they're a big deal. So, man, that's exciting. That's a long journey that you took. I really like hearing about your wife and how, it got to a point where she said it was affecting her too. And yes. I think that's true. I mean, you have a spouse or whatnot, and things, you're not passing this over and over again. It starts wearing on the whole family because everyone's making a sacrifice for you to put in so much time to prepare for this thing. So that's good points. So I'm just curious, how did you, taking it 6 times, there's a lot of mental hurdles there. And I have in my inbox emails from other people that have failed multiple times, and they're just beat up over it, that mentally, financially, crushing their spirits. So how did you keep going? How what was the will? What was the drive to do that?
I've been very fortunate. I had a lot of cheerleaders in my corner. My grandfather still being one of them. It was one of my dad's last wishes for me to do was to get it passed. He had hoped to get to see me, and it didn't happen, unfortunately. But so there was those kind of things. But I had a lot of cheerleaders work. Like today was the first day the district kind of been opened back up since COVID. So we started having people come in and working. It started we're going back to work program. And so there's people there, and they were about as excited as I was that I finally passed it. Like I've got a lot of congratulation emails from coworkers that had reached out and said, "Hey, great job. We know this was really wearing on you," but they'd always kind of been in my corner. So having that support and knowing that it's like, okay, I've still got my job. Even if I don't pass this, I still got a job. So at least I've got work to at least keep my mind off of it. But what, is always, okay, always try to learn. It doesn't matter past it, like, what did I learn differently? I mean, every time I learned something new. But really the last two times, I think the fall of 2020 and now the spring of 21 were the biggest kind of learning curves. Like, okay, what works for me and what doesn't? And that's for everybody, it's a little different, but I mean, to ever out there still wanting to take it, even if it's your first time or your 50th time, go for it. You can do this. If I'm proof that it can be done, it takes time, but you have to have cheerleaders. In the Facebook group, there's a lot of great cheerleaders out there. I know when I failed it in the fall, there was a gentleman named John Day. He said the seventh time, he said, when you take it and pass it, he said, it just felt like the test was geared towards me. And I totally understand where he's coming from, because that's the way I felt this spring was the morning session was geared towards me. If you can crush that really helps, because it just sets the tone for you for the rest of the day. It really does.
That's great. And the Facebook group you're referring to is the Civil Engineering Academy one?
Yes.
Is that what
yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we've got a private Facebook group for course members that go check out the Ultimate Civil PE Review course. And as part of that, you get access to our private Facebook community. And that community is awesome. There's a lot of good people in there, a lot of people that have struggled as well, and they're there to help you. And I've tried to really create that as a safe place for people. A lot of people don't want to post that they've repeated the exam, but I've really tried to bring that out. I repeated the exam too. So as the course creator, I'm pretty open about it. And I don't think you're a failure as an engineer if you have to repeat this thing. It's really just kind of learning how they do it, the questions they ask, the look and the feel, and how things are going. I had a question for you as you kept preparing for this, because you took it multiple times. Were you buying additional resources every time that you took the exam? Were you staying with the same resources? This is a common question that comes up with people that repeat the exam, of whether they should just study the same thing over again, or whether they should get new problems and find them and create kind of a new schedule. What are your thoughts around that?
For me, I actually did some of the problems I'd done before. I'd had some books, some of the two CE exams you produce for the morning, the breadth exams. I had some older editions of those, and I bought another edition of that. Same way with the depth. I had the PPI material and patent from the fall, but I'd also added Goswami. I ordered it from a Shannon. He was on your podcast here a couple months ago from Champaign, and she sold it to me. She's like, "Hey, this really helped me on the exam." I'm like, "Well,
she's great." Yes.
So I'm like, all right, okay, I'll try this. And it seemed like the Goswami, I ended up buying the book that was up-to-date materials for it. And kind of with that in the CERM, the latest edition of the CERM, and kind of the exams were harder in my opinion than the PE, but like I felt it was very geared towards me. I'd done the NCES test. For me, about a month out, I took the NCES exam as a timed exam. You've got 4 hours in the morning, 4 hours in the afternoon. And I did well on them. I got, 28 to 30 questions right. I'm like, okay, I need to bring this up. What can I do differently? It's like, okay, so I studied the little areas that I felt like I need to study harder in it. But I added material, get the reference material. Don't skimp. I know it's a cost, and I understand it's a lot of money, but don't skimp on the afternoon references. That one question that comes up off that one book may be the difference between you passing and failing. I totally understand the cost. I get it. I've questioned my same thing, but the definition of insanity is doing the same thing, expecting different results. So try different things. something may work better for you. For me, it was read a problem, write the problem, do it, then read it again. Like that's just how I learned. And that was one of the big things I did. Like when I wrote my exams or questions, I wrote out every question word for word, then wrote out my solution. It's like, for whatever reason, that works for me. Other people, it's a read it out loud, write it. Everybody's got their own different learning. The best thing you can do is try to learn your learning style. Like I said, I never knew how to study. I had to teach myself how to study. So that's what I discovered. Oh, I'm a read it person.
Yeah. So, well, that's awesome. You discovered something, I guess, new in this process. Yeah, I remember, when I took it as well, I always tell people this now, but you have to get back, into homework mode, and that's hard to do. And you've been out of school for a long time to get back into that mode. But that's kind of where your mindset has to go. And I actually found that as I was studying for the exam, closer to the exam, you start, I don't know if you want to say enjoy it, but you start enjoy learning, I think, again. And like when things start clicking, it's like, okay, yeah, we can do this.
Well, so, I think to me, my mindset was, okay, I've been pushing the snowball up a hill. Then all of a sudden you get to the top of the hill and it's like, okay, yeah, my snowball's big, but all of a sudden you start getting things and it starts, the snowball's rolling down the hill now. Mm-hmm. Oh, it's clicking. I know exactly what you mean, because I hit that mindset about 3 weeks out before the exam. It's like, I'm going to do this. I can do this. Like, and even my boss man, the company's like, the Monday before the exam, he's like, well, you ready? I said, yes, I am. I said, I really am. I said, I think I'm going to go pass it. I said, I really believe I'm going to pass it. I said, I've done all the prep work. I've done over 600 problems, which is a lot. It sounds insane. Yeah. When I got to looking through my notes, it's like, oh, this is insane how many questions I really did.
Wow.
And it's like, but I really feel like that was the difference. And there were so many different problems written by so many different people.
Right.
So, and that's to me is the big thing. The NCES test is really good for showing you kind of how it's going to be worded for the exams. But the other exams give you other avenues on how to look up information. You need to know how to use your references. Like that to me was the other big key, is having your references tabbed and knowing where stuff was at in the reference, where you don't have to flip to the index. Oh, there's 10 different check things on this. Oh, now I got to look through. It's like, okay, I've got this tab. This is somewhere right in here. I'm going to start right here and I can find it pretty quickly.
You hit on something I think was important, and I just wanted to talk about it a little bit, but that was that you mentioned your mindset, and that you were confident when somebody asked you if you're going to take the exam. And I teach people this going through our course, but like having the right mindset, I feel like is a huge percentage, a huge deal when going into the exam, because if you are a repeat taker, the statistics aren't great, they're kind of against you. But if you're going in every exam and you are just bitter and you're mad about the whole process, your chances of passing are pretty much, you're not going to do it. So
no, you're diminished.
Yeah. So I really like that you brought up that you went in with confidence and that you had that right mental mindset. And I think if people do that their percentage actually goes up because of their confidence, and you might take a blow if you don't pass, but if you can keep going at it, don't let the test beat you up and keep going. So I really like that you brought that up. You also talked about some resources. So the Goswami book and the reference material, typically PPI's book. Are there any other resources that you would recommend to people studying for this? And you did the transportation depth exam, is that right?
I did the construction depth exam.
Oh, construction.
Get all the recommended ones. I will admit, both times, the fall and spring, I didn't use all the references that were recommended. But all it takes is one question. And if that's the difference between passing and failing, then
do it.
It's an expense. I can't argue that. But the difference, if that's what helps you pass, if that's that one question, how bad would you feel if, let's say that I got a 55 and I felt like a 56 might have passed? How bad would you feel that, knowing that might have been the difference between you passing and failing? Yeah. You're going to feel worse over that than spending the few $100. It'll make up for it once you have your license.
I agree. Get good resources. You'll need them. Well, let's dive into this. So you were a student of one of the Civil Engineering Academy resources, courses that we had. How did that help you on your journey?
I was kind of one of those people. I follow along with how to do the questions, and that's what I mainly paid attention to. Is okay, how do I do these problems? Then I just sat down and learned how to. Okay, where's this in my books? Where's this at in the references? Where can I find this material? And I just started working the problems. And it's like, okay, I've seen how these problems do. Your depth kind of seminars you had on YouTube. I would do the question, come out. Okay, here's how to do the question. I'd write down the question. I try to do it myself beforehand. Before I actually saw the explanation on doing it, it's like, okay, didn't check my work. Those are the big things that kind of helped me. Was Andy kind of following along with Andy on some things was different. Good. Trying to listen to a recording, trying to pick things out. But your brother and you doing your guys' live kind of YouTube live streams were beneficial for me.
Oh, good. Hey, we try to do stuff that's beneficial for people, but and as part of the course, we're trying to do more and more of these live sessions where people can submit questions and then we jump on and solve them for everybody, kind of do a live problem solving session. So that's all part of the coursework that we provide now. So I'm glad that those were helpful to you. That's good to know. So what are your plans now that you've passed the PE? What's the next steps?
Well, at NDOT, you get an automatic promotion. You go from a construction engineer 4 to a 3. So you get a promotion and you get a pay bump. So I ended up with a 9% raise, which was really nice. Wow. Knowing that, just as soon as it sure. So that's kind of automatic. Now I've kind of got avenues where I want to go. There were some, like I said previously, there were some positions I couldn't get into because I didn't have my license. And now that glass ceiling's been broken. And I've leveled the playing field against other applicants. Now it's like, okay, we both have our license now. Now you're going to have to beat me in an interview instead of just being able to, oh, well, they got their license. Sorry. I know I talked to some people that interviewed with me, like, your interview is really good, but we can't hire you because you don't have your license.
Mm.
You could be the greatest interview we had and be a great applicant, but if you don't have that, we're sorry. We just can't hire you for that position. That's a requirement. And that was understandable. And that was kind of that other drive. It's like, this stinks. I know I'm missing out on promotions because I don't have a license. So that was kind of that instinct, kind of like, okay, now I've got options. Fortunately, NDOT's, there's always options out there. I'm very blessed with what I do. And there's, if you wait around long enough, things will change and there will be openings. And there's a lot of folks who are closer to retirement. And I know in this post-COVID world, things are going to change again. And there's been some people leave because of it. So I think you're going to continue seeing things change. You just got to keep those opportunities open and be willing to try new things. Don't be set, well, I'm happy with where I'm at, I'm just going to settle. There might be better things out there for you, and it may be worse. Just don't burn bridges when you leave, and make the best of any situation you can be in.
I think that's great advice. Definitely don't burn bridges. And once you get the license, that's the springboard for the rest of your career. I mean, you can kind of go where you want to. And I love that you said that now they have to beat you in the interview because it was automatically disqualifying you from other positions. So, if people are in that same boat and still struggling, our whole website is built to try to help people get through these exams. So definitely check out things at civilengineeringacademy.com so we can help you out there. But man, I appreciate you coming on and sharing your journey. It's been fun to hear. If people wanted to reach out to you, what's the best way to do that? If they had maybe questions or just wanted to talk to you?
They can message me through Facebook. If you're on the Civil Engineering Academy site, I'm on there. Or you can reach through Messenger on Facebook.
Cool.
I can give Isaac my email and he can post it. That's fine. Send your emails and ask questions. I'm open to help anyone because I want to see everybody pass. I had a lot of cheerleaders in my corner, and I would love to help cheerlead other folks because I know that was very beneficial knowing that, yeah, I may have failed, but like, hey, I was getting a lot of advice. Hey, don't quit. You got this. You can do this. And sometimes all it took was just, man, there's times I'll say, it's like, oh, I want to be done. I don't want to study anymore. And it's like, I'd either talk to my wife. She's like, hey, this is important. You can do this. Don't quit. take a break, take a day, just reset yourself.
I think that
right. So just
awesome.
having that just support was huge.
Well, I think one of the beauties also of our private Facebook community for those that join our course for the PE is that you do get people in there that that have taken the exam and are coming back to help people that are taking it again. So you should do that too, because it'll help other people that are in there. And if you want to join our free Facebook community, we do have a free one. If you just go to ceacommunity.com, that's our free community. And it sounds like we can find you somewhere in one of our communities. So that's really good. All right. Well, is there any last parting wisdom you have for us? I think people are going to love this. They're going to love hearing your experience, the mindset that you had, and just all the general tips you have for taking this exam, even as a repeat taker. So anything else?
The biggest thing to me is Jim Valvano had whenever he gave his speech with 93 ESPYs, and sometimes hearing some of those coaches, you go, well, that's kind of crazy, but it's like that really is the mindset. Don't give up. Don't ever give up on it. If you truly want to get it, then don't stop. You can do this. Don't be afraid of failure. Guess what? It took Thomas Edison however many times to invent the light bulb. I mean, failure is going to happen. It's okay. That's how we learn. If we didn't fail, we wouldn't. If we were always right, we'd never learn anything. So take everything as a learning experience and do the best you can. And that's all anybody can ask is just do the best that you can.
Perfect. Well, I appreciate you jumping on, sharing your wisdom. I hope everybody's listening to this as if you're going to take the PE exam, that you're taking some notes on this episode. I really do appreciate you jumping on with me, James, and hope you have a good day.
Thanks. Thanks for inviting me. Good luck, everybody.
Well,
I'm getting a
I
cramp.
was off.
Ow. I'm getting a cramp in the leg. Ow.
No. Oh, gosh.
Oh, that's funny.
Hey, we'll try to edit that one out.
I was going to say, you can edit that. Oh, hang on. I got to walk this off.